Welcome to the Chronically Healthy Life show. When you hear the word chronically, do you automatically associate it with chronic disease? We all do. It's been programmed into us. But what if we flip that whole idea on its head? Let's discover how we can create chronic health in our bodies, our minds, our finances, our relationships, and our lives. Now, today we have a change of scenery. It's just me and Christy here.
Woohoo! Hi, Nina.
So good to have you here.
I'm glad to be here with you. We mixed it up a little today.
That's awesome. So, Christy, last week we talked about vacation, right? And that's how vacation could be like a mental detox for people. Christy, you were a teacher for a very long time, right? And I feel like as kids, everything that parents doing is kind of going against building brain health. Like I feel like parents are always focusing on the physical fitness and how they do in school, but not necessarily stimulating the brain. They just feed them a lot of sugar sometimes, doing a lot of homework. So nothing that actually stimulates the brain or building their brain health. What do you think?
I agree. Although I do think that physical activity does help stimulate their brain health, because one thing that I have actually had this experience with children as young as like right in their 2s. This child will be talking up a storm, but they're a little clumsy, a little awkward. And this child is running marathons, but doesn't have much vocabulary yet. And I want to tell everybody that is totally normal. Typically the brain, I learned this because I had parents asking me about it. The brain develops either the speech centers first or the physical first, but it's not wrong either way. It's that's just part of how they develop. So they don't worry if your child is doing that. They're gonna move forward as it's just the way that they developed, and that's all okay for very young children, like around in their 2s or so. So, but the physical, you still want to do lots of physical activity for the kids. Oxygenate the brain. It can't be bad, right?
For sure, definitely oxygenate the brain. How do you feel like the food that we're giving our kids these days?
Oh, well, I got to say, as a teacher, I would see the kids who unpacked a lunchbox with they have a thermos of soup and maybe a nice, turkey sandwich and some carrots and celery cut up, or maybe an apple or some. And then there are the kids with prepackaged junk food, those chips that are all those multi-bright colors, or I don't want to say any brand names, but you all know what I'm talking about, or prepackaged sweet rolls. And those kids would go, wow, and just be climbing the walls, and then they would crash, and you couldn't do anything with them. And so that has to be a major impact on them, not just for the attention, but just for everything, for the development, their body development, their brain development, their emotional development.
I guess it's a good thing that RFK is now banning food dyes in their foods, right? In their food. That's a good thing. It's a good start.
It's a good. And we have to start somewhere, and that's a good start. Yeah, definitely. Yes, kids love Skittles.
So, what do you think is something that maybe parents can do to help the kids maintain their brain health?
Well, absolutely number one is reading. There is nothing better. There's just nothing better. Now, obviously, your infant child or your 2-year-old is not going to be reading probably. I mean, they might. I was reading really, really early, and there are in the bell curve, there are those kids that are going to read no matter what the schools do to them.
Right. Sure.
But reading to them, listening to audiobooks, talking about the stories, the imagination builds comprehension and vocabulary, and it just expands the mind in a way that there's just nothing else. Now, of course, when you combine that with good nutrition and lots of exercise, you're going to get a little genius. It's just, they're going to be a genius in their own way. They might not be book smart. They might be book smart. They might be, wise, like Einstein, who failed math classes probably because he was bored out of his mind, and but yet was a math genius. So it's you have to honor who they are, and when they get interested in something, support it. So and then reading. Number one, and let them read what they want. Self-directed reading is the best thing you can do. Go to the library, let them pick out what they want to read. And because you know what? There will be those kids that they're going to make a leap. they're 7 years old and they're going for the Harry Potter books. Or they're 10 years old and they're going for the Captain Underpants type books. That's okay. Who cares? They're still reading. So,
and I feel like it's important to play too, right? And I don't mean iPads, phones. I definitely drop those, but really play with the bricks, all those whatever it is that we use our hands, we build things with our hands. We train our brains that way rather than just looking at an iPad and whatever it is that we do. I think that's so much very important to play.
Hugely important, and also playing with other people, playing with other children, playing with their parents, sitting around the table and playing games. There's so much going on there at the socialization. Talk about socialization, that the communication, the good sportsmanship, there's all sorts of stuff happening there. The emotional development that goes with that. And emotional development is a brain function, I think.
That's true.
So,
like we go back with Monopoly, you get mad about it?
throw the board. Yeah. But yeah, so learning but from your mistakes too, and how then you can, because we all make mistakes. I make at least 20 just before breakfast every day. And
everybody does.
The kids, with kids, there's so much going into them. And the most important thing is play with them, talk to them, read with them, and just enjoy them, relax. They're going to be fine. Don't push them, don't force them. And less screen time is always good. In fact, I think I just read something about the statistics of parents that restrict screen time, what the development is in the kids, as opposed to kids that get lots of screen time. And I mean, it's huge.
I'm glad in doing that kind of research and releasing it, because that's very helpful as parents.
Absolutely.
So the reason why you don't see Andy here is because Andy's going to be interviewing our guest today. His name is Eric, and it's going to be all about brain health. So it's going to be a great episode for us. So Christy, we're going to take a break, and when you come back, Andy's going to be with our guest.
Yay! Can't wait.
An empowered life has no expiration date. We're all created to do incredible things, like conquer summits, catch big waves, and live our passions. As time goes on, our bodies begin to show signs that things just aren't as they used to be. Our energy levels decline, sleep patterns shift, and recovery slows. But our bodies are masterpieces of design, holding the potential to bounce back better than ever. With X39, we achieved something remarkable in the field of wellness and regenerative science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHK-Cu, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, which requires external light sources, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality, enhancing the body's flow of natural energy. For improvements in strength, stamina, performance, and overall health and well-being, with the simplicity of an affordable, non-invasive, non-transdermal patch. As we age, levels of these life-enhancing elements, which are associated with wellness and longevity, begin to decline. LifeWave invested 10 years into stem cell research, which resulted in over 70 patents. X39 was born to bring to the public a product that could support wellness in an entirely new way, supporting the production of younger, healthier cells with wearable light technology. Becoming a powerhouse is easier than you think. Harness your body's natural potential to maintain youthful energy and vitality, because life comes at you fast, but it doesn't have to pass you by. Live long, live well, live young. Be the light with LifeWave X39. LifeWave.
Why do 98% of beauty enthusiasts rave about coolness? It's all in the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Introducing Coolness Pearlescent Face and Eye Serum Cream. This powerhouse combines the antioxidative power of schisandra berries, the glow of pearl powder, and the hydrating wonders of dragon's blood extract. It's like a time machine for your skin, making it radiant, firm, and oh so smooth. Inspired by ancient Chinese traditions and backed by modern nutritional science, this serum cream is perfect for dry, mature, and aging skin. Say goodbye to dullness and hello to youthful radiance. And guess what? For a limited time, you get a free cooling eye cream applicator with your purchase. It's time to unlock your inner glow with coolness. So what are you waiting for? Treat your skin to the best of both worlds today.
Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life show. Tonight's guest is Eric Collett. He is the CEO of A Mind for All Seasons, an innovative company specializing in helping people across the United States to optimize their cognitive and mental health. He is a national recognized speaker, consultant, and brain health expert, a licensed residential care administrator, a teacher at the College of Idaho, and has also taught at Boise State University. Eric passionately believes that lifelong learning is a key to finding powerful new solutions to significant challenges and has been working to change lives through innovative brain health interventions, dementia care techniques, program development, and leadership strategies since 2000. Welcome to our show, Eric. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to be with you, Andy. Thank you.
Love it. Love it. Wow, that is quite a mouthful for everything that you've been doing. But before we dive into all this science, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey and what inspired you to create A Mind for All Seasons? You know, why is brain health so important in your mission?
Yeah, thank you so much. My interest in diseases like Alzheimer's actually started when I was a teenager, and I wrote a paper in a high school chemistry class about some theoretical causes of Alzheimer's. And then I watched as a couple of my grandparents faced vascular dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and it was difficult to watch. And then I spent 16 years running assisted living and memory care communities. And when you do that early in life, I think it changes something in you. It gave me a profound appreciation for the value of life. Right. But it also is so deeply impactful when you watch someone go from being really pretty functional and able to communicate to functionally like a newborn. And I really wanted to do whatever I could to figure out what was driving that and how we could move upstream and prevent that so that fewer and fewer people would go down that pathway.
I love that. That is so inspiring because, of course, my family, well, actually, Minna's family, they have the genes for Alzheimer's, and of course, every single one of them, her grandfather got it, and then Minna's mom had, early onset of it. Minna's aunt has it, and they all claim, well, because of genes, you're automatically going to get it. So I'm there with you. My dad died from Parkinson's, so these neurological disorders is something that can hit hard for a lot of people when they're getting older, and they just associate that with old disease, right?
Yeah, it's true. And one thing that I have to comment on right up front is that so many people think, oh no, I have this gene, I'm hosed, that's it. And you know as well as anyone, Andy, that genes load the gun, but you can make a whole lot of choices that pull the trigger. And in my experience now, having worked with thousands of people across the country in the last 9 years since I started A Mind for All Seasons, the people that have the genetic tendencies toward Alzheimer's respond better sometimes than people who don't, as far as preventive strategies. And part of that is that we understand some things that those genes are doing as far as elevating risk. And if you know why they're elevating risk, then you can counterbalance a little bit more successfully. So if nothing else, I want people to walk away with hope that you can influence your brain health at any point, and the sooner the better.
I love that. That is so true. That's so true. So I know when you talk about brain health, you talk about brain health as like your computer hardware. Can you break down a little bit on that, on why is brain health your hardware? How does that all come together?
Yeah. So, 9 years ago, I started the company to really focus on helping family and professional caregivers. And then a year into it, I met my business partner, who's our chief medical officer. And we went all in developing this system to help people who were living in skilled nursing and assisted living and memory care communities reverse symptoms, leveraging some of the current research that's come out. And along the way, family members were coming to us saying, you just helped my mom add 10 points on a 30-point cognitive test in a matter of a few months. And I thought that was impossible. So what can you do for my brain? And as we did that work, Andy, just sort of organically, more and more people started coming to A Mind for All Seasons. And pretty soon business leaders started coming. And this is where I began to understand the concept that I speak to with the analogy of hardware. I had a business leader from Atlanta, Georgia come. And he said, Eric, I recognize that this is the knowledge economy, and my brain is like my tool, and I want it to be as sharp as possible. So can you help me get my brain sharper? And I said, absolutely, let's do this, because we knew that within 3 or 4 months we could get cognitive scores up on average about 20 to 30%. So we started working on that, and a few months down the road, as he was doing better, he said something that really profoundly affected me. He said, Eric, I honestly thought that I needed to study more about how to be productive in my life. And I needed to read more books about how to get more done or go to a business workshop. But now I recognize that all of those skills, that's kind of like software. In my brain, that's more like hardware. And I don't want to load new software on old hardware. And you just gave me a hardware upgrade. Things are working better. And I went, oh, that's a really good insight. Even though the brain is not like a computer, there are many ways the brain is different than a computer.
Sure.
I think the analogy works that we need to learn skills, we need to learn strategies for effectively navigating life, but we also need to take really good care of our physiology. And when we combine the two, that's when we get dynamite results.
That's amazing. I just wanted to just talk back on a couple of points that I heard from you, because you're saying that you were you originally are helping a lot of the seniors that were declining in cognitive health, right? And in the modern allopathic medicine and everything, they say old dog can't learn new tricks. As soon as your memory's gone, that's it. You cannot regenerate. Your brain cannot continue to grow. You cannot start regenerating the brain. And you basically proven that's not true at all.
Yeah, and I wish I could say that oh, this is something that we discovered. We didn't. There's actually a lot of different researchers who have discovered these kinds of principles. Many years ago, Dr. Richard Isaacson at Cornell University went to some colleagues and said, I want to start an Alzheimer's prevention clinic. And his colleagues laughed and said, you can prevent Alzheimer's disease. And he said, well, you're not reading the research. We understand a lot of things. You could change the trajectory. And now he's successfully been doing that work for years. You've got Dale Bredesen at UCLA that was the founding president of the Buck Institute. And he was really the first who recognized, as far as I know, that brain health is never about one thing. It's multimodal, and it's totally different to look for a monotherapy. What's one pill that I could give you versus could we measure all the different factors, nutrients, hormones, inflammatory markers, metabolic markers, lifestyle factors? Could we look at all of that stuff and deal with as much of it as possible? Kind of like patching multiple holes in a sinking ship instead of just patching one hole and wondering why it's still sinking. So they found that, and we really have just leveraged the work of a lot of other brilliant people.
I love that. It's so true. You know, in the modern world, all the information's out there right in front of you. Just a lot of people are just not looking at it because they're still just so used to just listening to what their doctor says. And once again, I'm not going against doctors. I love my doctors, right? But there are better ways holistically that we can improve our health. You were talking a little bit about all the things that you're seeing when it comes into brain health. What are your thoughts about toxins? Like, you know, there's so much toxins. You know, for me, I'm very big on toxins, detoxing the body. You know, I'm not a brain specialist, so I don't know too much about how we can help the brain, but I know a lot of it gets past that blood-brain barrier. So when it comes to toxins, you know, I'm just going to throw it out there. You know, what are your thoughts on toxins specifically, heavy metals, and even those people that decided to get the jab a few years ago? Like, are there any correlation that you're seeing with cognitive decline?
Yeah, great question. And I would say, how many hours do you have, Andy? We could talk a lot about that. I'll give you a great example, but kind of a principle prior to that. So if you look at the rates of different diseases, there's been a dramatic shift. Consider things like autism, where the rates were 1 in 10,000 back in the 1970s when I was a child. And now it's like 1 in 30, and it's getting worse all the time. That is not a genetic problem. That has to be an environmental problem because the genome doesn't change that fast. So I think that alone at least points the direction toward what about all these 80,000 plus chemicals that didn't even exist 60 or so years ago. But I'll tell you about a client that came to us. It was about 5 years ago. He was 70 years old. And he had gone from being a super successful land developer who was gregarious and happy and fun to a guy whose wife of decades divorced him. His adult children wouldn't talk to him because he was rude. He was accusatory. He was a jerk. His brain was deteriorating. His cognitive scores were going down. He was developing a Parkinsonism. His right hand would just tremor and he couldn't make a fist. So he felt like his life was unraveling. And we looked at a lot of different factors. And yeah, there were some genetic contributors that were compromising his detox pathway through the liver. Yes, he had some nutrient deficiencies. There was some hormonal wonkiness. But the single biggest thing that showed up for him is that he had mercury levels in the 99th percentile.
Wow, 99. Wow.
Yeah. And I literally watched this man over about 9 months as we slowly strengthened his system and then helped him eliminate that mercury slowly and carefully. And I watched as the tremor went away and he could make the fist again. And literally his personality changed. There were times that I regretted working with him because he blamed me for everything. Everything was everyone else's fault. And that shifted. And he became warm and friendly and happy. And to this day, he's doing well by dealing with a neurotoxic substance. And if we had time, I could tell you stories about people that sprayed their own pesticides and herbicides at a sod farm, or people that were exposed to other chemicals as people doing other types of agriculture, or people that worked in industrial situations or had their hands in solvents, or there's all sorts of things as far as neurotoxins that can play a real role.
So when you're looking at the neurotoxins, you are looking specifically at the blood panel. How do you measure the amount of heavy metals. Are you measuring that in the hair, or are you measuring that through the blood also?
It depends on what you're looking for. And one of the things that I have to say up front that took us a few years of work to really figure out is that some people in the functional medicine world test, and they ask people to spend just truckloads of money testing everything. But we learned over time that what actually matters is what your immune system is fired up against. You can have, let's say, lead bound up in fatty tissues of your body, but if your immune system is not reacting to that, let's say that you've got herpes simplex virus in one strain or another, and that's flaring, and that's what your immune response is showing up with, then it's not the lead that's your problem. So sometimes it's way less expensive and more helpful, especially in a younger person who still has a healthy immune response, to actually measure some factors with the immune response as opposed to measuring a toxic substance itself, because you can never test for every single thing that's out there.
Correct.
I think some people jump too fast into testing instead of focusing on a really thorough, good workup and strengthening the foundation first, because a lot of things can be fixed just by getting the body working the way that it's intended. And then you see what you're dealing with. But to put a finer point on it, if you have to test something specifically, it depends on what you're testing. With mercury, I really think the gold standard is looking at a urine test and a hair sample and a blood test together, something like Quicksilver Scientific would do, because that gives you a more rounded view of what's going on with both organic and inorganic sources of mercury.
I love that. So when you're dealing with brain health, are there any warning signs, like early signs that your brain is already sort of declining? Because I don't any of us want to get to the point like where your patient had would just start going wacko and getting mad at everyone in the family, because those are obviously signs too. You start changing in your emotions and stuff. But are there more easier to catch warning signs that people should be aware of?
Well, first of all, Andy, I want to point out how brilliant that question is. And it seems like a basic question, but the worst thing that I hear from people when we talk about this stuff is they say, Eric, I love what you're doing. It's amazing. I hope I never need you. And I think, oh my gosh, I failed. Because people, we have grown up in a sick care system, and I understand where it comes from. People wait till they have a symptom and then hope you can do something about it. But when it comes to things like Alzheimer's disease, the pathology is there for 20 or more years before the symptoms show up. So the real answer is, how far upstream could we move? There are lifestyle decisions when we're young that will affect things. And the sooner we take action, the sooner we have a better life. So understanding that, what about warning signs? If you have a mental health challenge of some sort, that's a warning sign, because metabolic health problems drive those mental health issues, and ultimately they lead to more serious problems downstream. If you're sedentary, that's a warning sign. If you eat the standard American diet, that's a big warning sign. If you regularly get less than 7 to 8 hours of deep, restful sleep, that's a warning sign, because the brain's not taking out the trash, which is what happens when you're sleeping, and you get into trouble. So those are some of the key things. And of course, if you have brain fog, if you're feeling fatigued, if you feel an energy crash in the afternoon, those are warning lights on the dashboard of life. And you can do something about all those things and have better results today while also preventing more serious problems downstream. And I think that's a key thing, because a lot of people say, oh, you can't get humans to be preventive. And I say, bogus. That is not true. You have to give them a compelling reason to do something today. And I don't know anybody that doesn't want more energy, better focus, better cognitive skills today.
Correct.
And if the fringe benefit is you can dramatically reduce your risk of neurodegenerative disease downstream, well, what a win is that?
That is so true. You're speaking right to my soul. That's what I believe in too when it comes down to health. Is you have to learn and be preventative so it doesn't get down to the point, because like you said, a lot of times these conditions take 5, 10, 20 years to develop, and by the time the symptoms get so bad, it becomes harder to start reversing these chronic issues. But we're going to take a short break here, and when we come back, I want to talk about ways that you can help people's brains. We'll be right back after this message.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science, at longevity, at exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take control of your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
Imagine a life where every day is fueled by energy, vitality, and purpose. Where age is just a number and your best years are always ahead. Hi, I'm Andy Nam, certified functional nutrition longevity coach, best-selling author, and international speaker. After reversing my own chronic health struggles, I'm now on a mission to help you live longer, stronger, and of course to look younger. I combine biohacking, cutting-edge nutrition, and stem cell technology to unlock your body's full potential. So no matter where your starting point is, I'm going to guide you toward a chronically healthy life. Ready to reverse aging and take control of your future? Connect with me today. Your journey to longevity starts here.
Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life show. Today we have Eric Collett, the CEO of A Mind for All Seasons. If you're just joining us now in the first segment, we're talking about the symptoms, of declining brain health and about how our brain is really the hardware. You want faster hardware so you can run all the software, all the things that you're learning. Now, with the second segment, Eric, I want to dive a little deeper on how we can help people out there that is starting to have these per se symptoms of declining health. What do you think? What are your top 3 ideas that can help people start boosting their brain performance? Like 3 things that they can do right now that can help boost their performance.
Yeah, that's a great question. Ultimately, there's kind of 2 categories. There's lifestyle factors, and then there are more biomarkers, things that we can measure as far as genetics, nutrients, hormones, inflammatory markers, metabolic parameters. So the most impactful thing that a lot of people can do is get the right kind of blood test and get the guidance that they need to do that. And we'll give you some thoughts about how you can do that later. But to really give something that's actionable right now, let's talk number 1 about sleep. Let's talk number 2 about what we eat. And let's talk number 3 about how we move. I know in the first segment of the show, we were talking a little bit about exercise and children. So let's unpack that a little bit. So first of all, sleep. I mean, take the other 2 away or consider what happens if you don't eat well for one day. Well, nothing especially bad happens. And that's exactly why it's so hard to eat well, because everybody knows you can drink 1 can of your favorite sugary beverage and it won't wreck you. But if you do that multiple times a day for the next 3 decades, I promise it'll ruin your life.
Yes.
When it comes to exercise, if you don't exercise for one day of your life, nothing bad happens. And we've all done it. But everybody knows if you miss 24 hours of sleep, you're ruined the next day.
You're a hot mess.
Exactly affects you. And one of the reasons for that is that sleep is when the glymphatic system runs. And the glymphatic system is really something that wasn't fully proven as an idea until about 2014. Basically, when we're asleep, the brain shrinks a little bit, the ventricles, the fluid-filled spaces open up, the body makes about 1.5 cups of cerebrospinal fluid and bathes the brain in that. And then there's this pulsing in deep sleep that helps to pull up cellular waste and debris and proteins that, if they aggregate, like amyloid beta protein or alpha-synuclein protein in Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, you get into trouble. So that's the clean cycle of the brain. So if people can really focus on having optimal sleep, then that makes a huge difference for brain health. People say, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or sleep is for the weak. And I think, well, first of all, you have to sleep to be superior. And second of all, if you think I'll sleep when I'm dead, well, good luck, because you're probably going to get there just a little bit sooner than you otherwise would. Now, if there's time, we could talk about specific strategies for optimizing sleep. But that's the first thing that I'd say.
Yeah. So I want to dive just a little bit deeper on sleep, because, a lot of people don't even think how important sleep is. So what are your thoughts on the people that says, hey, I am highly functional, I only need 4 hours of sleep? Because I get this all the time from especially, people that are very successful, because, they think that they need to spend more time working their job. Like Elon Musk is one of those few people that says, well, I can get by with 4 or 5 hours of sleep and be, highly functional. What are your thoughts on that? Because, I have my thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts coming from a brain expert.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I think most of the people who say that, number one, they may not have done a really objective cognitive test. Number two, often they're supplementing with things that are masking symptoms, and they're a little bit delusional about it. And it's very easy to get caught up into living a certain way and thinking, oh, I feel really good and I'm accomplishing a lot. That doesn't mean that their brain performance is truly as good as they think it is, or as good as it could be. And I've watched a lot of people who thought they were doing well and they actually weren't. Now, that said, I think there are some few people who actually have some genetic anomalies, and they produce certain hormones and neurotransmitters in such a way that they really produce tons of energy, and they probably can get by with a little bit less sleep. But I think that is far more the exception than the rule. And I would not use that as your default mode or your excuse. It's interesting. I'm going to pick on my business partner a little bit, because when he and I first met, he had a hard time sleeping. And he thought, hey, I mean, he's more of a brain health expert than I am. And he thought, I wish I could get more sleep. But it was a struggle for him. And the thing that actually moved the needle was doing consistent hyperbaric treatments. He actually got a hyperbaric in his home. And one of the ultimate best things that we see from hyperbaric medicine is improved sleep. And it was interesting, because it used to be he'd come over to my house, and he lives in a different part of my state. So when he was in town and working on projects, he'd stay at my house, and he'd be up at like 4:30 in the morning, cranking away, studying and things. But now he naturally sleeps till more like 6. Sometimes 6.
Nice.
And it's better for him. And he just needed to get to that point.
Correct. Well, piggybacking on that, what are your thoughts on catching up sleep? Because a lot of people say, well, I don't need that much during the week, but then I'm going to sleep in on the weekends. What are your thoughts on that? Like, say, you're sleeping 4 or 5 hours, and then on the weekend, you're going to sleep for 10. Does that actually make up all that lost sleep for the whole week?
The short answer is no. There is some evidence that you can make up a little bit, that it's probably better to do something than not. But humans are so sensitive when it comes to our circadian rhythms. And I think the fact that we just push ourselves and we make health negotiable all during the week, and then we expect to catch up things, is such a seesaw of activity for our bodies that we were not biologically designed to endure. that I think we never get great results if we're doing that. And the fundamental problem is the story that we're telling ourselves. We tell ourselves, oh, I just have to do this. I have to get this busy. And when you make your health negotiable, you might get away with it for a short period of time, but you will always have to pay up at the end of the day. And so I would encourage people to say, is that just a story I'm telling myself? Do I really have to do this thing that's going to keep me up half the night? Or is there a different way? Because otherwise you're going to be forced into, I mean, your body will go into shutdown mode and you won't have a choice after a point.
Exactly. That is so amazing. A lot of people don't think that way, right? They just think that, well, if I can get by a little sleep, then I'm not going to worry about it. But like you said, I think you sort of hit that, hammer on the nail on the head there. It's just like a lot of people aren't taking their health serious enough until you start seeing problems and you start seeing the major declines. So, what is a big what's a big myth or misunderstanding that people have about brain health that you want to bust? Like basically something that everyone believes and about brain health, and it is wrong. I love busting myths, so I would love to learn a little bit more from you on that.
Love that question. There's probably a lot of myths, but
I'm sure there are. Yeah. So
what is the biggest one?
What is the biggest one that you always bust?
Okay, so the number one thing that I would call out is that I think the general public confuses to a great extent what is common with being normal. And there's a huge difference between common and normal. It's very common as we age that we get more and more forgetful and more fatigued. And it takes a lot longer to learn things if we can at all. And I hear people make excuses all the time and they say, I just had a brain fart. I just had a senior moment. And what we now understand about aging is that, yes, by the time we're in our 30s, the brain slows down slightly because it's no longer growing. We're not in sponge mode and really developing with the brain. But then we settle into what really should be a lifetime of productive brain functioning that we can have a health span that matches our lifespan. We can have really good brain functioning right to the end if we're doing the right things. And people don't see all the decline as evidence of disease that we need to ask more questions about, we need to do something about. It's kind of like when you're 25 and you go to the doctor's office in the allopathic world, if something's wrong and you say, I've got this symptom, and so on, the doctor says, oh my gosh, we got to figure that out. This is not right. And at some magical age, and I have no idea when it is, Andy, but at some magical age, you show up at the doctor's office with a list of complaints, and he or she looks at you sideways and says, well, you are getting older.
Yeah.
And I realize that gravity has its way with all of us. And I realize that all of us are going to punch the ticket at the end of the ride. The number one cause of death is birth. But what can we do to change the trajectory? And I would just argue that confusing common and normal has us in a complacent mode that is absolutely unnecessary. And it's time that we break that belief and we ask more thoughtful questions.
I think I'm going to steal that next time when I'm talking about people about common and normal, right? Because like I talk about normal all the time. Everyone thinks everything is normal, but common and normal. See, that is so true because everyone is on the common side and forget about the normal side. What should be normal? What is normal decline?
I want to add one thing to that I think will really help some people here. When people get blood work from their doctor's office, their doctor's only worried about, are you in the normal range?
Yeah.
And they glance at, are you normal? Well, that range basically comes from testing, let's say 100 people, and you throw out the top 2.5% of the scores, you throw out the bottom 2.5% of the scores, you got 95%, and that's normal. But let's take an example of one test, ALT. It's a liver function test. Back in the 1970s, that range topped out at about 25. Now, I just met with someone earlier today, and he brought labs to me from another doctor, and the range from that lab topped out at 44. Why the difference? Well, the difference is back in the 1970s, literally nobody had a fatty liver unless they were a raging alcoholic. And today, somewhere around 40% of the US population has non-alcoholic fatty liver disease because fructose is processed exclusively in the liver. Back in the
Right.
1970s, people were getting fructose from eating apples and oranges. And now they're getting highly concentrated fructose in all sorts of ultra-processed foods. And when you flood the body with many times more fructose than the liver is designed to deal with, you get fatty liver disease. And so the range changes. And so we think it's a victory now. In general, people think, oh, my liver test is fine. It's 40.
Yeah.
No, that's a disaster. That's a huge problem.
That is so true, because I do something similar with, when I'm looking at labs with people, like a lot of people, oh, my doctor said my health is good and all and everything, right? And I was thinking it's all normal. And I was thinking, when I'm looking at it, I'm seeing all these red flags. I was thinking, yeah, normal could be what 95% of the people have. You could be very healthy or you could be close to dying, but that just means you're in the middle there somewhere. It doesn't mean you're optimal. And it's always funny. The ones I get best is like, my doctor says my blood labs came back for the shape I'm in. What does that even mean? It blows my mind when they say
if
that.
I'm normal, why do I feel so lousy? And yet, in a standard checkup, it's like a CBC and a CMP and maybe a handful of other tests at best. And that's a very narrow window to look at. And it will certainly tell the doctor and you if you need to get to the hospital in a hurry because you got a serious problem and you're maybe near the end. But there's so much more that could be looked at.
That is so true. So true. So can you just quickly explain a little bit more about this blood panel test? Because I think a lot of people think when they get a full normal, all okay from the doctor, they don't dive into further. Even if they're feeling foggy, they got brain fog, maybe they got fatigue, and yet doctor says everything's good, nothing to worry about. Like, how do you educate people between what's normal and what is optimal? Like, where there are red flags that you're seeing?
Yeah, great question. So as far as educating them, well, for one thing, we have a very robust online membership site where we have online office hours and people can come in and ask questions all the time. But when we're working with someone and using the enhanced protocol, which is a full process that we develop, we order a very extensive panel of blood work. And we're looking at things that are fundamental to how the cellular engine runs, things that are foundational for brain health that really go beyond a standard checkup. Standard checkups are looking at things downstream, and they are very important. And we encourage people to have a really good primary care doctor that they trust. But if you want to move upstream, you've got to consider things like nutrient levels and whether they're optimal, not just, are you somewhere in the range with the rest of the sick population? What about hormones? Hormones are very neurologically active, and most people have no idea how many hundreds of hormones we have in our body. They have a very simplistic view of hormones. What about metabolic health parameters? What about genetic factors and how they affect people? And I think what we have to understand is that the body is a system of systems. All these things work together, but what really matters at the end of the day is not an algorithm. It's very personalized approaches. What does your body need from both a lifestyle standpoint and from a biomarker standpoint? And it's possible through us or lots of other sources to measure those kinds of things. And then what matters is to get help and coaching. And I know you do a lot of coaching with people, and you know the value of really working with an individual to help them through those kinds of interventions.
That is amazing. I love it when I'm talking with others that see the whole picture, seeing everyone as a bio individual, not just like one, a lot of when doctors look at it, they only look at one system, like you said. What you're doing is by looking at all these things together, you're linking all these systems together, and then you start seeing the larger problem, right? I think that is just amazing. So, Eric, what is the best way to get a hold of you? And can you tell us a little bit more about your membership?
Yeah, so the easiest way to get a hold of me is my contacts there in the QR code on the screen. But just reach out to us at amindforallseasons.com. And if you go to /join and you sign up for our membership site, if you put the promo code Andy in there, it's going to give you 30 days of free access to a membership site that even after it's paid, it's just $25 a month, because we give you access to a whole suite of tools And most importantly, you can come to online office hours multiple times a week. You can talk to me, you can talk to our nurse, you can talk to our medical director, you can bring labs from other doctors and say, help me understand this. There's hundreds of hours of content that's searchable so that people can find answers to their specific individual health problems and brain health issues. And if you want to dig deeper, if you need a full suite of labs and a user manual for your body, we do that too. But into the community where we can really provide support and answer your questions.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. You shared so much information, especially for the brain. And, reach out to amindforallseasons.com/join. And remember to put in the promo code Andy for your free 30-day trial. I'm definitely going to join the membership tomorrow. I want to learn more with you. And, we are going to get all the people that I know to be part of your membership. Thank you so much for being on the show, Eric.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
We'll see you
Hey,
next
everybody. Welcome to Kids Corner. The next summer travel safety tip around water is lakes. So my mom grew up in Wisconsin and many, many lakes, Wisconsin. My dad grew up in Minnesota, many, many lakes in Minnesota. One of the things about lakes, of course, they're freshwater, so it's very easy to go swimming in them. The thing that can be dangerous for a lake that we have to be aware of is that the plants that grow from the bottom, here's what you have to know. If you dive down and you get into where those plants are, they tend to wrap around you. And if you struggle to get out from that, they will tighten. So counterintuitively, if you feel that plants trying to grip you, you need to relax and hold your breath and let yourself float up. You can gently breaststroke your way out, but don't panic and don't start trying to fight it because they will tighten and hold you down. I actually learned this from my mom, who, when she was a teenager, that happened to her. But she knew from her water safety courses that if you relax, they'll just float back up again, and then you can get out. You get up to the surface where the air is. And then maybe don't dive so deep. The other thing is, don't dive deep when you're in a lake. Stay near the surface and you're probably going to be just fine. All right. Have a wonderful summer, safe travels, be happy, have fun, and enjoy. Ciao.
The time has come for us, the parents who want more for their children and the teachers who want to love teaching again, to band together and stop the coercion and control and the crazy-making boredom. How? By making learning a joyful experience in a relaxed environment. By supporting and encouraging kids, not forcing or tricking them. Meet Christy Boyd Johnson and the Barefoot Learning Club membership. Go to www.barefootlearningclub.com and find out more. Together, we can raise a generation of wildly capable and happy kids.
Welcome back to Chronically Healthy Life. So, Christy, what do you think of Eric's interview?
Oh, I think he's brilliant. I mean, I was just enraptured the whole time.
For sure. I think he's hitting a group of people that really needs his help, but maybe not aware. So, if you're watching this episode, definitely contact Eric and get your brain checked out.
He clearly knows what his stuff. Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
So next week we have Lisa Manzo. And I think, Christy, you can be talking to Lisa again next week.
Okay, yay.
And we're wrapping up this week for Chronically Healthy Life. Thank you for sharing this space with us. We are honored to be part of your journey towards healing, hope, and longevity. So join us back here again next Friday, 7 p.m. CST. We're on e360tv.com, on the Vitality TV network. We're on the YouTube channel, Chronically Healthy Life. And of course, if you want Andy's help, book your free 30-minute consultation with Andy at longevitywithandy.com. And, if you want to look younger with skincare, check out my skincare line at kunis.com, which starts with a Q. Until next time, stay vibrant, stay strong, and stay chronically healthy. We'll see you next week.
Ciao.